Welcome to Paul's Heart. I'm Paul, author of the book, Paul's Heart, Life as a Dad and a 35-Year Cancer Survivor, available on Amazon. November every year marks a very important month for me. In 1988, at the age of 22, I was diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Back then, there was no social media. In fact, I didn't even own a computer. Basically, I was all alone to face this battle. I wasn't aware of any other cancer patients that I could talk to that might have Hodgkin's lymphoma or any cancer really, as far as that was concerned. I underwent chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and here I am 37 years later. And trust me, nobody's more surprised than me. When you're diagnosed with cancer, you're often just given a 5-year quote for survival rates, and we can ask till our hearts turn blue, what happens after 5 years? And there are no answers for that unless you get to meet or see someone who has survived. And like I said, 37. I'm here 37 years later. And there are many, many good things that I get to share with you as a long-term cancer survivor. Of course, obviously, we have social media and computers and TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all these other things that, we can share our experiences with. The best I could do is write a book, and I've got it written completely from memory, because everything that I've gone through is still clear as day in my head. But some of the great, amazing things to keep in mind with cancer today versus 37 years ago, the diagnostic methods that were used on me back in 1988 are hardly ever, if ever, used anymore. You can look them up. One's called the staging laparotomy. Another one is called a lymphangiogram. And occasionally, I think I hear of some patients having a bone marrow biopsy done. But if you want to see how rough diagnosing cancer used to be, that's it. Of course, the treatments that I underwent, again, those are no longer used. Medicine determined that they could do more for treating cancer with less toxicity. Okay, I was hit with so much radiation that patients weren't expected to survive it. And then of course the chemotherapy, I was given a regimen called MOP-ABV, which for Hodgkin's patients today, they get a hybrid of that called ABVD. They dropped off the MOP because of how toxic it was. Again, sometimes the treatment was worse than the disease itself. And then finally, because of the better and safer treatments, better survival rates. So many cancers now able to be put into remission. One thing you rarely hear any doctors talk about is being cured. Don't be disappointed that you only hear the word remission. It's a doctor's prerogative to use. My doctors never used the word cure, and here I am 37 years later, and even I don't use the word cure. I don't know why. It's just something that's stuck with me. But the important thing, the most important thing to realize after you're done with your cancer battle is that there's life to be lived. A career, family, traveling, any kind of recreational sports you want to get involved in. You want to write. Singing, music, whatever. You go on, you live your life. Now, one thing that I do wish that, because mental is so much a part of getting through a cancer battle. And one of the most frustrating things, besides worrying about relapsing, is wanting to get back to your old life. And I think it was comedian Drew Lynch who said, following his injury that he had, that actually he's a comedian that stutters, and he took a softball to the throat, and after that, when he woke up, he ended up having a stutter. And he's a very successful comedian today. And he quoted, and I'm paraphrasing, you can't go back to the life that you used to have. And I'll say it before cancer. That life will never exist again. And it's important that cancer patients understand that. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. That's just the way that it is. You know, when you get done with your treatments, you will get back to normal. But it's a new normal. It's a new normal that you establish. You get through your, first few years of follow-up exams, and you're going to be weaned off this cancer care that we had. Okay? There's another care that you're going to have afterwards, which is basically just keeping in touch with your primary care doctor to look for any kind of late side effects that might come about because of the treatments that you had. Because unfortunately, there is a likelihood, not a guarantee, but a likelihood that you could have some complications from the treatments. If you follow my TikTok page, you will see that I've begun talking about that. If you read my book, I've mentioned things in there. My Facebook page, same thing. I talk about these things all the time. It's important for you to be aware of them. It's important for your primary care doctor to be aware of them, what to look out for, and then take care of anything that does come up. But, like I said, just like you can't go back to your old life, your new life can be great. 37 years later, okay, I've had a great career. I've traveled the world literally to adopt my daughters. Never thought that I'd see my daughters graduate high school, and here they are. Both are in college now, and I'm looking forward to seeing them graduate again. These are things I never thought possible 37 years ago. But I'm right in front of you telling you that these things are indeed possible. I found this jersey. I bought it a long time ago. The number belongs to Sean Alexander of the Seattle Seahawks. I've been a Seattle Seahawk fan since the early 1980s. And those were some pretty rough years. Seattle was always known as an underdog. And, I kind of look at being a cancer patient the same way. The odds are so tough, and it's a really hard fight to go through. And being the underdog, you want to win. You want to get through this. And eventually the Seahawks would start becoming victorious and even win the Super Bowl, which I was really happy for. But I opened up my closet, and this jersey with the number 37 on it spoke volumes. This just happens to be my 37th year since I was diagnosed with cancer. And as I often wonder how I'm still here, I take advantage of that to make sure that I tell everyone that I possibly can that you can get through this. You have to. Has nothing to do with brave, has nothing to do with being courageous. You do it because you have no choice. Until next time, this is Paul's Heart.